Welcome to the Career Coffee Chat podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Urban, certified career strategist and executive coach, removing career roadblocks so you can achieve more impact, influence, and income.
And I am looking forward to discussing resume writer secrets revealed with you today. After all, you might be considering hiring a resume writing service, and you want to make sure that you can get your money's worth out of that service. After all, what red flags should you look for? What type of experience should you expect? How much should they cost? Some of the things I will share with you today may surprise you. And as a career coach, I hire lots of resume writers, and I'm very fortunate to have excellent writers on my team. But it's most important for me to help you today to understand exactly what to look for quality resume writing services and what red flags to avoid, which is very important. I know you probably have some experience, perhaps, with different types of resume writing services. And some of these are free online where you pop your information in and it gives you a bunch of recommendations. I think it was last year and probably this year too, Monster, for example, was saying, oh, put your resume in here, we'll scan it and tell you how good it is. And then they try to sell you a bunch of services. So you have to be leery. How good is that recommendation? What matters and what doesn't for your resume? Good to see you, Jennifer, tuning in from Austin, Texas. Greg, nice to see you. Las Vegas, Nevada. All right. So, Greg, no gambling on your resume today. Okay, we're not gambling on your resume because I'll tell you what, I take resume writing very, very seriously. Now, years ago, when I first started my career coaching business independently, I did not actually intend to set out to do resumes or become a resume expert. It happened organically. Turns out I had a lot of insights and information that helped people get real results in their resume that were not provided by standard resume writing services. For example, discussing one's career contributions and acknowledgments and accomplishments in a resume is very difficult. And a lot of resume writing services weren't offering that. So I decided to dive in, learn all there is to know about resumes, particularly applicant tracking system friendly resumes, to make sure that my clients had the edge when they were looking for career growth and new opportunities. How can you be sure you're getting quality resume services? Well, let's understand, first of all, there's different types of resume services out there. Okay, it spans the globe from what we call resume mills to just plain old cheap resumes you can get on Fiverr, for $25. You can imagine what the quality of resume you'll get there, to certified writers and people like myself who are career coaches and certified in certain areas. So what is the difference between those and why does it matter? Well, resume mills, typically you're interfacing with one of those because they probably have a really fancy website and all kinds of guarantees, 30-day or 90-day or whatever guarantee that you'll get an interview, and it's probably a relatively inexpensive cost for you. And the problem here is you probably have no idea who's writing your resume. And oftentimes these, what we call resume mills, are a churn 'em and burn 'em facility. They take your information, which they expect you to put into a form, and they crank out a resume. They make very few changes and you get a document. Well, that doesn't help you a whole lot. Just know this, a quality service will not just rewrite your material. Rewriting that information doesn't help you any. Okay, now let's talk about cheap resume services that you can get on things like Fiverr or things like that, or Thumbtack or what have you, $5, $10 resume, $15 resume. Well, just know you get what you pay for. Okay, there's very little time or attention spent on a resume that is that inexpensive, quite frankly. They'll probably, again, will have a form for you to fill out. They'll put all those words together, make a few changes, and you have a document. Again, not very useful for you, the job seeker, is it? You need a document that gets through what I call the 3 stage gates of a job application process. And that's applicant tracking systems, that's recruiters, and that's your hiring managers or your decision makers. Now they're all looking for something completely different and unique, by the way. So this is a challenge because a lot of you heard you have to have a 1 or 2 page resume. In fact, a gentleman shared with me yesterday that he's being constrained by his MBA program to a 1 page resume. I was horrified. I was like, oh my gosh, how are you supposed to even get through an applicant tracking system with a 1 page resume? You can't. It's very, very difficult to do that. All right. So you need a document that will work for you. Now know this, if you're an experienced professional, you can go up to 3 pages, but it's very important you manage information throughout those 3 pages. So you don't want to hit people over the head with wealths of paragraphs and lots of words everywhere. You want to have plenty of white space and be very readable. But you need to manage those 3 different stage gates, and they ask for different things. So ATS, for example, wants to see your job match criteria, i.e. keywords, right? And resume and recruiters, they want to see your relevancy for the job in the first half of the first page. Now, decision makers, they want to see their ROI. What is their return on investment for hiring you? What kind of value are you bringing to that organization? It costs money to onboard people, so they want to know what value they're going to get. So your resume has to do a lot of things, and it's dang hard to do that in 1 or 2 pages. So hi, Gerald. I'm glad to see you tuning in. So what questions do you have so far? Do you have an experience with one of these services? Resume Mill or cheap resumes like Fiverr or something like that. Now let's talk about certified resume writers and why there's a difference, okay? Certified resume writers go through a training program. All right, they are trained on how to create a document that is aligned with your professional industry. So a lot of times I hear, oh, well, you're not in tech, or oh, well, you're not a lawyer, so how do you know how to create my resume? Well, that's because there's traditional standards based on that industry that resume writers are trained in. So if you get someone who says they are a certified resume writer, you have a much higher chance of a quality product. All right. Now that resume writer may interface with you very different ways. Some prefer email, some want to talk to you over the phone. Back when we were in person, some would even want to meet you in their office. But irregardless, you probably would have a more personal experience and also know exactly who's working on your resume, which is important, and be able to ask them questions, which is also important. Right? So that's the difference between someone who's a certified resume writer and a resume mill where you put your information in a form, or something free online where it just basically does the same thing, only it's free instead of you having to charge, $100 or $200. I even talked to someone the other day who paid $300 for a subpar resume. You don't want to do that. You want to get your money's worth. Now, what's the difference between a certified resume writer and a career coach? Because there's a difference. Okay. Well, certified resume writers are awesome people. All right. I work with them all the time, have great certified resume writers on my team. And also know that they are trained to write resumes. They are not necessarily trained to help you express your contributions, your accomplishments, and what you've achieved throughout your career history. While if they know what they're doing, they will help you focus your documents. They may not be able to help you target them or be able to talk through what the best career path for you might be. That's the difference between a certified resume writer and a career coach like myself. It's just taking that next level. So it depends on what type of engagement experience you want to have. That makes sense? Let's see. Someone on Facebook says, Career Builder did not match resume to keywords for me, and of course wants a fee to update. That's right. They want to get paid for their services. But I'm still working on their resume modules, and that's through my resume mastery program. So this is probably Nicole. It's nice to see you, Nicole. So yes, creating those statements about your career contributions is so important. And resume writers don't necessarily walk you through that, okay? Some do, some don't. So ask lots of nosy questions, which brings me to my next point. What can you know? How much should it cost and that sort of thing? How much should a quality resume service, what's the investment you're looking at? Because I have some people who are like, oh, well, I only want to pay $100. Okay, well, if you're working on a resume, it's not a that fast process. And actually, if done correctly, will take up to 8 to 10 hours to create a quality product. That's right, you heard me correctly, 8 to 10 hours. They should not take your document and rewrite it. Okay, they should take your document and redo it from scratch and ask you lots of nosy questions. So how much should that cost? Okay, well, resume mills will vary. So it could be anywhere from $25 to $300. I've even seen $600, because what they'll do is say, oh, you can get a resume for $99, and then hit you with a bunch of upgrades. Well, you can get this for another, and you get that for another thing, and then all of a sudden you're spending $600. And in reality, the process is still the same. You fill out a form, you put your information in there, and you don't really talk to anybody, and next you get a document and you have 2 revisions, and that's it. Good luck. And they also say they're applicant tracking system friendly compatible. I have yet to see a resume from a resume mill that's ATS compatible. Haven't seen one yet. Just have not. Okay. I don't know what they think ATS compatible is, but I haven't seen one yet. So certified resume writers, you can expect to start around, I've seen them as good quality writers around $150, depending on what you want, just a resume, for example. And, typically around $200, $300 and up. Okay, depending on their certifications, how many years of experience, etc., what the experience looks like, how they're going to engage with you, those types of things. So take all that into consideration. For example, if someone says, okay, well, you get 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 2 hours of interview time, we'll talk through everything, you dictate to me, I'll write things down, that takes a lot of time. So that service should cost more. Make sense? Now, career coaches typically will start around 500 and up, and the reason is that because of that is a function of time. Career coaches are spending more time with you. We're spending more time to understand who you are, what you want to do, what your target is, what your challenges are, where you want to focus, what's your passion, what drives you. We need to help you express your story and help you shine in your document. That's what we want to do. Now, really great resume writers, certified resume writers will do the same to a point, but then career coaches take that to the next level. They might you will say, hey, I see a red flag here for you. Have you considered this? Or, when you talk about this, your voice really lights up. Have you thought about, well, yeah, I've always wanted to do that. Well, you know what? You have relevant experience. Why not try it? So this is the kind of conversation you can have with a career coach versus a resume writer. It's like, okay, so tell me what you want to do. Give me some examples, that sort of thing. They're really not going to dive into this at a deeper level like a career coach will. Okay. And a lot of career coaches will also give you some coaching time on top of your documents, just what I'll call the tactical side of your job search, your resume, your LinkedIn, whatever that looks like. All right. Now, that is why you have a difference. Okay. Resume, it's a function of time, quite frankly. Resume mills don't spend any time on your documents. It's cheap. Okay. Resume writers are a great mid-touch level. And of course, your career coaches are a high touch, more personal experience and more personal engagement. Let me know what questions you have so far. And Gerald asked, what's the best way to handle conflict on style, content, etc.? In the end, who's the boss? Okay, well, depending on who you're interfacing with, Gerald, give them the benefit of the doubt. For myself, and I've just recently had this conversation, so I'm really glad you brought it up. I had a client say, I want my resume in this format. Well, during the consultation call, because every potential client gets a consultation call with me for free, I express to that person that I have a specific template, a specific format, a specific process, because it's been tested, researched, vetted, and it works. In order for me to guarantee results, I can't deviate from that template. If you just want your resume rewritten, then I will have to send you a disclaimer that I cannot guarantee that resume will be ATS compatible. Okay, so just keep that in mind. What is their reasoning for that? Are they just being inflexible because they like their style better? Or is it for a really good reason, a technical reason that's backed in data? So when I tell people, okay, I have a specific format and this is why, it manages 3 stage gates, it does all these things for you and honors your needs as a client, I'm doing that to serve you at the highest level, not because I want to be hard to get along with, right? And if the client is absolutely, no, I don't care, I just want my format, then I say, well, okay, I oftentimes will refund them part of their money and tell them to, and recommend them to someone else. Because I cannot, as a business person, I cannot ethically feel good and morally feel good about giving somebody a product that will not serve them. I just can't do that. That's just not how I'm wired. I hope that makes sense. Now, content. Let's talk about content. You drive the content, okay? For the vast majority of resumes, you, the client, drive what content goes into that resume. So I have had, and it's only happened once, but I did have a gentleman. He was like, well, I just wanted to, you to do it. And I didn't want to, I don't want to have to give you information. Like, you're just supposed to write the resume. Where are we supposed to get the additional content if you don't want to give me any content? I can't peer into your skull. And you don't want me to either. That would be relatively gruesome. So, so you, the client, drive the content of the resume. What is actually going into the document for as your experience, your abilities, your career contribution stories, all of that, your certifications, education, yada, yada, yada. All those things, you drive that content. Okay. Now, depending on what level of service you've engaged with, like a certified resume writer or career coach, they'll probably give you some guidance as to what content would be expected. Particularly career coaches will definitely give you guidance. And if they don't, find someone else, because clearly they don't know what they're doing. Just being honest. So certified resume writers may or may not. Just know that certified resume writers, depending on their style, what type their business model, they just may be writing you a really great resume and not really cognizant or aware or trained or what have you to ask you specific questions to elicit the right content from you. Okay, so typically that is someone who has a lot more experience and knows how to create and elicit that information from their clients to help you stand out, help you shine on these documents. When you're applying for a job, which one should you adjust, the cover letter or the resume? Let me know in the chats. Which one do you think? Okay, let's see. We have 2 questions here. Paula said, I'm going through a local career coaching service provided by my company following a layoff, and those vary in quality. So as expected, they provide some differing opinions on how you've done your resume. At the end of the day, I take their feedback and it's just like feedback. You're right. Unfortunately, Paula, those services are not good. And they actually cost the companies a lot of money. So when you are given a package or being laid off, what have you, from an organization, oftentimes they'll hire an outside and external consultant, career services, to help you with your resume and your LinkedIn. Okay, I'm very familiar with this story, and I'm very familiar with the people who provide these services. And I have never heard of anyone having a good experience with them, ever, never. And it's very sad because it's not cheap. I mean, you would be appalled if you knew how much it costs per person for these types of services. Paula, they shouldn't be just giving you feedback, okay? They should be offering to write your resume for you, give you templates, give you formats, and give you all the help based on how much they cost. I know how much they cost. Yeah. And I do that as well from time to time for companies who are laying off individuals, but I'm not a big major multinational, so it's not a major part of my business, but I do that. But what typically tends to happen is people reach out to me because they haven't got quality services from these types of, career coaching services or counseling services provided by companies that are laying off individuals, and they reach out to me because they just aren't getting anywhere with these people, and they don't feel like there's a quality product. So let's see, Linda asked, after the finished product, what happens when we're applying for different titles, industries, and a pivot situation? Ooh, big question there. Do we need to purchase several different resumes? Okay, so Linda, let's talk about that. It depends on the service you're getting. Someone who knows what they're doing, like really knows, will be able to provide you a resume that for 90% of that document, you should not have to change a thing. Okay, because they will hopefully have already told you that you should be focusing on roles that share transferable skills and experience. Okay, what we don't want to do is try to shoot for different roles that have vastly different types of experience, like sales and project management. It shares a few commonalities like collaboration and people skills. Yes, project management requires people skills. It does. But other than that, it's very, very different. So you can see how that would be a struggle to do with one resume. So here is the challenge. If the roles are too disparate, too far apart, you only have one LinkedIn profile. And guess where the first place someone is going to go after they receive your resume? LinkedIn. That's right. So for those of you tuning in on LinkedIn, give me a thumbs up or a like, because your profile is a big driver whether or not you'll be reached out to by recruiters or HR managers and internal talent acquisition folks. So, Linda, as long as that resume shares transferable skills and expertise and abilities, you should not have to have multiple different types of documents. Now, you might want to have, just to save yourself time, if you know you're going for like program management or whatever, variations on a theme, if you will. Sure, absolutely. Create specific resumes for each one. However, you should not have to pay the resume writer a whole nother fee to do that. I'll give you an example. So when I'm coaching with my clients, I say, okay, based on this, well, I really need a resume target on that too. Well, as long as it's, like I mentioned, shares transferable skills and abilities in a pivot situation, you definitely want to have that happen. Then I will say, okay, for, just a moderate, mild, little extra, okay, we'll create another document that's more targeted towards this, but still your LinkedIn profile, when they go to your LinkedIn profile, there will be no red flags. They won't go there and go, who's this person, right? Because your LinkedIn profile will be able to encapsulate all of that information, because it's common, right? Common information, common expertise and abilities, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully that answered. David said both. Facebook user said align cover letter with the open positions. That's right. So you are correct. Sorry. No, unfortunately. Whomever, I can't see who you are from Facebook. As said, align the cover letter with the open position. So when you're applying for your resume to a specific job application online, you want to align the resume to the application, not necessarily just the cover letter. So it has to be resume first, cover letter second. Cover letters are very rarely read. And oftentimes now we're seeing they're not even giving you a place to put one. So cover letters are really going away. Like last year they were phasing out. This year they really are going away. And that's for different reasons. One, people don't have time to read them. They get too many applications. They're just not worried about that. They're worried about what the applicant tracking system says, how high you rank, how good of a match you are, personality on the phone, that sort of thing. So you want to align your resume with the application, not just the cover letter, okay? So Gerald said, good point. Resumes often need to be tailored to a specific job description, especially when a long career and done quickly to get in. How can that be accommodated? Great question, Gerald. So I'm going to give you a secret. Are you listening? I'll give you a secret. So most of your resume should remain static. In other words, it doesn't change. Okay. However, I recommend you have a career highlights section, select accomplishments, whatever you want to call it. And those several bullet points, don't make them 15, no one will read them. Those several bullet points help you focus in on that specific application. Okay, so you'll pick career contribution statements from elsewhere in your resume, or if you don't have any in your resume, you just freeform it. But that's the only section you really do target to that application. So that's my secret for you, Gerald. So hopefully that helps you. So that will help you tremendously to use the same resume for multiple different applications, as long as they're within that bubble of adjacency, right? Without having to rewrite the whole thing. Because here's the thing, if you are determined to have a 1 or 2 page resume, great, but you have to rewrite the whole stinking thing every time you apply for a job. And I don't know about you, but I don't have time for that, right? So, so save yourself some time, create a resume that's targeted, right? That's targeted to the job application, and have that select accomplishments, career highlights, whatever. And that's where you optimize to the application. Make sure you're highly relevant, because that section, and it should be on the first page, is what recruiters will look for. Okay, that's a big deal. All right, so let's see. When you first submit your resume through an open position, does a person even read it? No, they don't. Good question. So a person doesn't usually read your resume. So when you apply online and you have to create a username or a password, chances are no human being is seeing your resume, not right away. You're going through what's called an applicant tracking system, or ATS. Now, that piece of software is designed to compare your resume to the job description. And then it will assign you a ranking based on how close of a match you are. One of those match rates is based on keywords or skills or abilities that it finds in your resume. There's other things like whether you have education, years of experience. Fancy ATS systems will assign years of experience to certain skills, depending on where it is in your resume. And they will also go out and find your LinkedIn profile for the person managing that job rec. So they don't even have to look for you. The ATS, or applicant tracking system, will do it for them. So once you get through that screening process and you meet their job match criteria, which varies, okay, it could be anywhere from 50 to 100. I have seen 100 in the past. That's right, you have to match all the things. Then you'll be seen by a real human being, but not until then. So if you do not meet the job match criteria, you are archived and you wasted your time. So believe me when I say this to you. Do not use a shotgun approach when you're applying for jobs. It is a waste of time. And what do I mean by shotgun approach? Is you're using the same resume and you just go and firing away. It's a waste of time. Don't do that to yourself. I mean, it takes time to fill out these things, and they never upload your resume right. You have to redo it all the time. It's a pain in the butt. So don't, number one, apply for jobs you don't want. And number two, just send out your resume because you're in a hurry, or you don't want to take time, or you don't think it works for you anyway. It does work, but you have to know how to navigate the process. Make sense? Okay, so David says most jobs I've seen have a place for the cover letter upload. Good. It depends on your industry. Okay, some just not having it anymore. So it's not as common as it used to be. Okay, I'm in the process of career transition from an engineer. Oil and gas is dead. It's not dead. Okay, let's get this straight. Oil and gas is not dead. It's dying. It's not dead yet. I gotta have a whole workshop about that, but it is dying. It's not dead yet. Are you still driving a vehicle? I mean, not as often, but we're still burning gas. So as long as we're burning gas, it's not dead. Anyway, to a math teacher, God bless you. Do you think my resume should be, how do you think it should be handled? So completely new career. Great question. So that's a tough one. Okay, no lie. That is not an easy transition. One of the things you want to do is highlight your relevant experience as far as how you have applied. You also want to highlight any training, workshops, coaching, mentoring that you've done. Any sort of training you've done at all. This is very important because not only do they want to see that you have all the job experience, which is tremendously helpful, that you've leveraged your math acumen, if you will. My husband's a math genius too. But they also want to see your ability to coach and train, so teach other people. So that's two areas I'd recommend that you focus on. All right, so hopefully that's helpful to you. Gerald says, who retains the file? Okay, how careful do you need to be about copying another person's work? Can you give me some more details there, Gerald? Do you mind? Because I'm not sure if you mean who retains the file as far as you're working with a resume writer. If you're working with a resume writer, a good one will give you your own Word document. Yeah. I believe in teaching people how to fish, not just making them dependent on me. But some people's business models, let's just say they have a very low cost entry level experience, but you are dependent on them for every single little change. Yeah, that's a problem. So give me a little bit more information about that, Gerald, if you don't mind, and I'll be happy to help you. John says, I was told by a recruiter to contact me that over 600 people had applied for the job posted on LinkedIn. That's right, John, happens all the time. Don't freak out. Here's what I tell my clients. People who worked with me, they know they have an applicant tracking system friendly resume, 100% guaranteed. Okay, you follow my format, you follow my process, 100% guaranteed. ATS, you will get through, you will get seen. All right, so that's number one. No, and number two, they will know how to optimize said resume for that particular application very quickly. It doesn't take them forever, and they'll be able to also know exactly what their job match criteria is because I train them how to do that as well. Okay, so my clients who have told me, oh my gosh, I applied for the job on LinkedIn. There's like 400 or 500, 600 people who's already applied. Should I even bother? Yes. You want to know why? Because of all those people who have used the shotgun approach before, when they're just firing their resume away, all right, they haven't done any optimization at all. Chances are they won't meet the job match criteria or won't even come close. And you're probably not even qualified anyway. So yeah, so think 75% of those people who have applied for that job won't ever be seen anyway. So John, apply for the job. Okay, do all the right things, optimize your resume, make sure it's a good relevancy, and apply for the job. Yes, definitely do that. Okay, Gerald, glad I could answer your question. So what else do we want to talk about? We want to talk about some red flags. When you're engaging with a resume writer service, there are a few red flags you should look for. Okay, number one red flag is when they do not offer you any sort of consultation call for free at all. That person should want to be able to talk with you about your expectations, what you want to do, what your focus is, any questions you have that needs to be answered. Like for example, just yesterday I was talking to a gentleman and he said, I'm so glad we had this consultation call. He said, I was just going to buy this service, but now that I talked to you, I realize I really need this other part too. Some people are like, okay, well, I really need that, instead. So once I start talking to them, they realize, oh, okay, I really need to be here. Or maybe I need to focus on career clarity first if I'm making a career pivot. I'm not really sure what I want to do. Maybe just getting a resume done isn't the first step. Maybe understanding where I want to go is the first step, right? So there's a lot of clarity that can happen from those conversations. Also, it helps whoever is helping support you get the right information they need to lift you up at the highest level. Make sense? So that's a red flag number one. No free consultation call. That's a problem. All right. So, red flag number two, really cheap. You get what you pay for. Just being honest. I'm not trying to say that just to get you to spend more money, but for most times you get what you pay for. Now, I have had people come to me and they've spent $600-700 on a resume service that was a resume mill. They didn't get what they paid for, clearly. So you want to be super nosy about the process. Are you going to be working with somebody in person? In other words, are you going to know their name and can you email them questions, right? Are they actually certified? And if it's a conglomerate service like Pro Resume or Top Resume or whatever, right? Are they willing to share with you a copy of that certification? Don't take anything for face value. I mean, I just don't take anything for granted because it's just too easy to say whatever the heck you want to say on the internet, and it means doodly squat. Okay, you want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth. So be really nosy. Ask if they have a process and what that process is, and are they willing to share that with you? Is there a link you can go look at it, or is there a document you can have, that sort of thing? What guarantees do they have? Right? Here's a big red flag. 90 days, 60 days, guaranteed money back if you don't get an interview. Big red flag. Big red flag. You want to know why? Because number one, they're paying the people who are writing that resume so little, it costs, they have little to no overhead to begin with. So I can say that. And number two, they probably have so many stringent, you need to look at all the terms, T's and C's, terms and conditions to get that guarantee. What does that look like? Okay. Can you actually get your money back if you don't get an interview? Okay, so be careful of these sounds too good to be true things, because oftentimes they are. Don't go there. Also, take a look at their reviews. I'm seeing this happen all the time. No kidding. Because I'm a Google review gal. If I'm going somewhere new, I'm looking up the restaurants, Google review, and now I'm seeing so many fake reviews. For example, my husband was looking for a new truck and or a truck. It's his first truck. He's now officially a Texan. Anyway, um, I'm joking. He's from the UK, so it's kind of funny. But so he was looking for a new vehicle. And we looked at this one dealership who had all these 5-star reviews in the same week, like 50 of them, 5-star reviews in the same week. No reviews prior to that. The only reviews after that were all bad. But in this one week, they had all these amazing reviews. And they were all pretty generic. I said, that's a red flag. So watch what their reviews are. Are they genuine or not? So what questions do we have here? Think of a photographer. You might get access to the originals and make copies, or you might not. Usually depends on how much you're willing to pay. Okay, Gerald, honestly, any quality resume service should give you access to your original document. It should be a Word document because you want to apply for your applications in a Word document, not a PDF. Don't do it. The reason for this is, and applicant tracking systems are getting better. Okay, it's getting better, and they're ironing out their little kinks. But we don't know, depending on where we apply, whether they have the latest version or the version 7 years old and has never been updated, or if they even know how to use it. Just saying, there's a lot of variances there. You don't know as the end user, okay, as a person interfacing with that. So you want to be able to have a Word document that you can alter. Because quite frankly, if you can't alter it, you can't optimize it. And you have to optimize it for every single application. So you should own the original of your resume. Anything else, they just send you a PDF? Absolutely not. Ask for your money back. That's just ridiculous. Linda says, I'm applying for a job that requires a video. Yay! Gerald, you maybe want to coach Linda. Gerald's done some really amazing videos, very energetic videos, to be sent with my resume. Any suggestions where I can learn to produce a quality video? Actually, yes, Linda, you can leverage this tool that I'm using to go live on. StreamYard is free at the basic version. You can also do it via Zoom. Zoom has you can do free Zoom account and record yourself. Now, the free Zoom account doesn't allow you very much as far as gigabytes to store and record. So do look into that, okay? But StreamYard, STREAM, Yard, StreamYard has a free version. And you can just do a record session. Just record yourself. And you can use it to go live when you get, real fancy and want to go live on Facebook or something. So, but yeah, or you can use that, use Zoom, or use a free Zoom account. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And you have a smartphone, probably. All right. You have a smartphone. You can record yourself on the phone. Absolutely free. Don't have to pay, do any apps, do anything. Just record yourself on the phone, set it up on a tripod or somewhere it's stable, and you have a decent background behind you, okay? And just record yourself. Make sure you smile. Interact, act as if you're talking to real people, and download it, send it. You probably want to, if you have a Dropbox or something like that, Google Cloud or whatever, you probably want to put it there and then give them a link to it so they can download it. But yeah, super easy. Hopefully that helps for you. Some there. Okay, John says, how much time is devoted to discovery of my background, drilling down to relevant roles and titles? So as far as a resume writing service is concerned, so discovery, one of the things that most resume writers will ask for is your current resume. So we'll want to have something to start with. As far as how far back we'll go with more details, usually only 10 years and sometimes less, depending on how many roles you've had within that 10-year span. Okay, if you've had 10 roles in the 10-year span, we'll be able to do less detail and might cut it off a little bit earlier, just because we want to be able to give some information there really to sink our teeth into. for the hiring manager decision makers. So depending on what type of service you get, discovery could look like a phone interview with the person you're working with. Take, for example, my premium clients. I do a phone interview with them. I ask them nosy questions like, what do you consider yourself to be the expert in? What is it that you do that helps you stand out? And these are really hard questions, and you might be asked during the interview. And it also helps set you up for a great interview process too. At the more mid-touch levels, you can expect someone to send you an email with some key questions, or maybe they might put notes in your resume, say, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this? Or how about that? Or have you considered this? Or I'd love to see the impact statement or impact or outcome of that statement, right? So they'll ask you questions in your document or on a separate sheet of paper. Now, red flag, if they just send you a form at the very beginning, say, fill this out and nothing else, nope, move on. So hopefully that helps. Phil asked, does ATS remember if a person submitted a resume for several positions in the same company over a period of time? Does a person get automatically archived if they've not been selected for any previous positions? No, you do not get automatically archived, Phil. So great question about that. You probably have a username and password, Phil, to get into that applicant tracking system database. And I do recommend that you create a file, a job search file, and that way you can have all your passwords and usernames for all the things you've applied for. And when you apply for things and all that, I know it's a pain, but just keep a file because it'll save you in the long run. So you probably have a profile with that ATS system. Go in there and update your resume every now and then. Okay, and that will help manage that process because they do keep a record, right? I don't know how long, it just depends on how they set it up. That's totally up to the company. Hopefully that helps you. And John here asks, Linda has an extra interesting question. Are video clips also valuable to be coupled with a resume in general, not for a specific position? So what's interesting is you can add a video clip on your LinkedIn. That's right. And if you want to create a video clip, let's just say you decide to upload it to your own YouTube channel or your YouTube profile, you can give people a link in your resume to that video. Now, I'm not saying they'll actually click it, okay? But it might be useful to add onto your LinkedIn profile if you're actively and openly job searching. And it's a great way to introduce yourself and be engaging and talk about what you're excited about and passionate about and looking forward to add value. Think in terms of value statements to potential hiring managers because they want to know what is their ROI, what's their return on investment for hiring you. So what are your outcomes that you deliver, right? So be very focused on that. Outcome statements are big, big, big deal because there's a very competitive job market. And even pre-pandemic, it was still important to have your value statements be more outcome driven on your resume. Kiki says, I have 13 years of experience. How would you show promotions or new roles at the same company? I find that takes up a lot of space in the resume. Actually, you can just narrow it down to one simple statement. Promoted from X because of whatever key skills, expertise, maybe you want a big project, whatever that looks like, whatever business growth you helped in that organization, full stop. That's it, right? And that way it shows progression. Although it would be assumed that because it's the one company in multiple positions that you were promoted, but it doesn't hurt to make it obvious. Key point here. Okay, listen up. For all of you pivoting, or actually in general, you need to make things obvious on your resume. So if you're promoted, even though you had the same position or you moved up in different positions on the same company, and you would think it'd be obvious, make it obvious to the reader because they don't assume, okay? Same thing for career pivots. Okay, so you're moving into this role from that role, and it leverages transferable skills and expertise and abilities, but we need to make it obvious in our documents. In other words, just simply having that key skill or ability doesn't make it obvious enough because the people who are reading your resume, particularly at the beginning, are not subject matter experts. They will not draw that correlation. You need to do that for them. Okay, so in your career highlights, for example, perhaps you would want to say, I know that you're looking for, familiar with X, Y, and Z, leverages transferable skills from this, or transferable skills from this will give me all the knowledge and background and information and expertise, whatever, that I need to do to meet your requirements, whatever that looks like. You want to make it sound prettier, but whatever their requirements are, whatever they're looking for, we want to make it obvious that we can do that. Because they will not infer that information. They just don't. Let's see, any other questions for me? So if you're thinking about connecting with a resume writer or resume writing service, I'm happy to help you understand what may or may not be a red flag. And some of those red flags are, not, forms. Forms are a big red flag. Oh, just fill out this form and we'll get back to you. Big red flag. Being too cheap or sounding too good or giving you all these fancy guarantees. That's a red flag. Now, it sounds funny that I would say giving you all the fancy guarantees is a red flag, but usually there's a reason why they give you a bunch of guarantees, and someone who's a very savvy career coach wouldn't need to. I don't know if that makes sense, but I do have a guarantee that my resumes are 100% ATS compatible. But unless you connect with me for interview coaching, I can't guarantee that you do well in the interview. I can't control that. There's only so much I can do. So let's see. Gerald said he has a pro tip. Line up recommendations early. They always seem to ask late in the game, and it can be awkward to ask your colleagues at last minute in a rush. This is true. And not always are they asking for recommendations either. So, but it is good to have those vetted and made those people aware early on in the game. And last thing you want to do, by the way, is put down someone for a recommendation they have no idea. That's not good practice. So you definitely want to let those people know ahead of time. Linda says, for jobs beyond 15 years are important to career experience, would be okay to list as previous positions. Yes, or additional expertise is also a great way to list that, Linda. Great question. So if you do have relevant career experience beyond the 15-year mark, then you probably want to list that, without a date. You don't even have to say who you work for or even the position. Bullet points are perfectly fine. That is what the interview is for. Again, a resume is to incite a conversation, not to finish it. It's like the hook, right? Think of going fishing, right? You're throwing your lure out there and seeing if you're going to get any bites. Right? And sometimes it takes a while, but it's important to think of it as a hook, because some resumes, people want to finish the conversation, have everything about everything, and no one will read all that. People don't read. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. John asked, Aaron, are you able to test ATS compatibility and success? John, just personal message me on LinkedIn and I'll give you some resources, okay, to help you guide you in that direction. So what else do we have? So keep in mind, Career Coffee Chat podcast is available on all major channels. You can find out more about that. There's a link in the event description here. I just want to make sure that I have covered everything for you today. So a few other red flags for you if you are engaging with a career writing or resume writing service for your career growth is if they don't ask you what your target is, so what types of jobs you're going for, and if they don't ask you for a couple examples of that. Big red flag, because how in the heck are they supposed to target or optimize your resume as much as possible if they don't know what types of jobs you're going for? And just giving someone a job title doesn't necessarily do it. I encourage my clients to give me examples of job descriptions from anywhere. Indeed, LinkedIn doesn't matter. That really lights them up. That gives you that lift. It's like, oh yes, this is perfect. Because we want to target your resume on, oh yes, that's perfect, versus, it'll do. No, you don't want your ho-hum resume. You want that resume that's going to give you the return on investment. Your return on investment for your energy and time, and also give you that fulfillment long term, right? And if you're just looking for a bridge position, that's perfectly fine too. Just be clear about that. And some of you may have this going on, but may have not asked the question. If you are thinking about taking a step back, so let's just say you've been a manager for years and you're like, I'm okay with doing this too. That's not as easy as you think. It's not. In fact, if I'm working with someone who had a senior level role and they're thinking about taking a step back in their career, that means a significant rewrite of their expertise and experience, and some coaching around how to present themselves and present that information in a way that makes sense for hiring managers. Because when a hiring manager sees that you have had all this experience, but yet you're coming into this role, no, that's a red flag to that hiring manager, because they'll think, well, you'll be bored in 2 months and then look for another job, and then we've wasted a lot of money and time. And they don't want that. So just know that if you're thinking about taking a step back, it's a little bit harder than you think. And also, don't just apply for jobs that you can check all the boxes. All right. If you're 100% match for that job, you're not giving yourself any room to grow. And decision makers want to see that you have some room to grow in that job. You should not be checking all the boxes. I know that sounds crazy, but there's a really good reason for that. Because if you can check all the boxes, say, oh, yes, I can do everything here, well, where's the room for growth? So several things might happen. They might reach out to you, maybe, and they'll probably undercut you monetarily. And maybe there's really no room for growth at that company, so you might start looking pretty quick for somewhere else to go. Or they may not reach out to you at all because they know you're going to be looking for somewhere else to go because you'll be bored. Now, upon the rare occasion, that's just exactly where somebody wants to be, and they want to check all the boxes. They don't want to do anything else. If that's you, then have a very compelling reason, a passion statement even, about why you really love this type of role and want to stay there. Okay, so we have to, again, make it obvious for your readers. All right, so what other questions do you have? Let's see. Gerald asked, what about students? Is it worth the money that early in your career for a resume writing service? Yes, I believe so. And here's why. Because I have heard what they're encouraging students and what format they're encouraging students to use. It's terrible, and they're really killing their opportunities. It's hard enough to look for jobs when you don't have experience to back things up, and let's not make it harder. Okay, they're telling students to do things like have a graphically representative, one-page infographic resume. No, almost no applicant tracking system will read those documents, so you're instantly archived, never get seen by the light of day. All right. I just recently worked on a recent grad resume. He had 2 pages, legitimately 2 pages. And I was able to help pull out of him some relevant experience, like project experience, and highlight the impact of that he really struggled to do on his own. So yes, I do recommend that. And it should be priced accordingly. Okay. So Linda asked, for our current position in a job search, should we take the space to enter our value on the title we are applying? So current position, are you talking about LinkedIn perhaps? Just wondering, Linda, are you talking about the resume or LinkedIn? Because when you say for the current position, which one are you talking about there? I want to be able to help you a little bit more clearly, because if it's LinkedIn, then your current position, you don't have to put anything in there, and LinkedIn wants you to, but you don't have to. And you can also do that. You can also say senior whatever, and have a value statement in that space. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be careful what you say, as far as employment wise. And leverage the open to work feature, by the way. For those of you tuning in, if you haven't already heard this from me, open to work actually helps you connect with recruiters, and recruiters connect with you more readily. So that's one good feature of that. It is not the green ring of death, like I've heard some people say. Let's see. Any other questions that you have? It's been a pleasure talking to you today. It's been a pleasure having you tune in to learn more about the Resume Writer Secrets Revealed, and having a great conversation with you. It's been, always so glad to help lift you up to your highest level and achieve what you want to in your career growth goals. And please do share this with your network. If you love this show, please share it with your network. Help everybody else out too, because # we're in this together through these challenging times. Been a true pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in on the Career Coffee Chat podcast. It's been a pleasure. Feel free to reach out to me. My email is coacheurban@gmail.com or tweet at coacheurban, Instagram coach.eurban, or reach out to my Facebook group, Elevate Your Career. I'd love to learn more about you, hear your insights, and what questions you have. You can find out more about me at coacheurban.com. And don't forget, please do reach out on LinkedIn. You can find me at Erin Urban. Until next time, cheers. Here's to caffeinating your career.